Hello, everyone. My name is James Rosas, and welcome to our Week 4 discussion board about our comprehensive annual financial report, otherwise known as our CAFR, along with GAAP and GASB. So, for a quick overview, I'm going to discuss the cities that I selected, their letter of transmittals, independent auditors report, the MDMA, any tones that I may have seen, other post employment benefits, the OPEB, GAAP, GASB, and a brief conclusion. Now let's kick it off with the cities that I selected. I selected Los Alamitos, Cypress, and Laguna Beach. I decided to go with all three of these cities because they are relatively small and I wanted to see how extensive they could be. Um, but they do hold a high complexity of information throughout their CAFRs, and they are very, very detailed. So I found that very interesting, and I kind of like that. Didn't matter how big or small they are showing their level of detail, and they are showing like, hey, whoever's reading this, you can see what we're doing at all times, right? Moving on to the letters of transmittal, Los Alamitos, Cypress, and Laguna Beach, they are relatively the same. Luckily enough for us, all the CAFRs are very, very similar. So whatever's going over, whatever's going on, it's going to be set up exactly the same. Just information would be different, right? So for Los Alamitos, I noticed that the key thing would be on how conservative they are. Their type of budgeting is also very, very important. They want to maintain a balanced budget, and they do invest highly into our community, right? I know a bond just came out. We all voted on just for helping and assisting, whatever program that it was. For Cyprus, this was very extensive that I noticed. Um, of the three, they were pretty big, but their focus, as I read it, was very business-like, right? And they do have a lot of community projects and a lot of community programs. So it does show just kind of like how strategic they are when it does, focus on their community, right? They do have investments toward their infrastructure, but they do have a strong emphasis on, transparency, accountability, things of that nature. And for Laguna Beach, I noticed that they focus on, sustainability, and maybe it is because they're right next to the beach per se, but they do have a high level of, environment reflection and, reflecting on those type of priorities. So whether it be public safety, beach safety, coastal, that has been their main focus. But those would be the main three differences that I found. Now, moving on to the independent auditors report, these are the three reports that Los Alamitos, Cypress, and Laguna Beach. These are the auditor companies that they have been using. What was great about all three of them is they all have the same language as far as when they're presenting their opinions on these three cities. So for Los Alamitos, Cypress, and for Laguna Beach, I'm going to paraphrase right here, but it is stated the financial statements referred to above present fairly and for the year that then ended in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. So they're all following, the basic standards and policies from the auditor. At least that's how I understood this. Moving to the MDMA, I actually wanted to focus this one more so on Cyprus. Now, this is pretty small, but one thing I noticed between all three of the cities is Cyprus is actually pretty extensive. I noticed their MDMA was very, very big. It was a lot of pages, a lot more pages than both Los Alamitos and for Laguna Beach. And I noticed as far as if there was any political tones or anything like that, I didn't recognize anything directly, but I did recognize that they do have a strong focus in business, right? And everything that they did represent was like, oh, this business here, this is the type of money we're making or the type of money we're saving. So in a way, I would think, that could be a, political tone per se. Um, but it wasn't necessarily, said straight out. So with the amount of programs and facilities and things of that nature that Cyprus is using for their community programs and projects, um, it seems so positive to me. So it's like, oh yeah, this government is doing a good job for us. This mayor and this council members, they're doing great for us. So that is a huge notice. The thing that I noticed for Los Alamitos and for Laguna Beach. I didn't notice any political tones. It was pretty straightforward as far as I took it, and this is why I was showing Cyprus. Now moving on to the OPEB, for both of these, I decided to use both Cypress and Laguna Beach. They were far more detailed than the one that was presented for Los Alamitos. And I found them both on, the statement of net position. So both of these here are represented to each other, but you can see how vast both of these are. Moving on to GAAP and GASB, I'm going to be using Los Alamitos for both of my examples. So for GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles, this is something that shows our comprehensive view of our government's financial position, operations, cash flows. A good example that I found was, government-wide financial statements on the CAFR, and right here, statement of net position, statement of activities underneath our financial statements. That's would be something that I would use. For Gatsby, this is Government Accounting Standards Board. As it says straightforward, this governs, the accountability practices of our government entities. But we also see, what are the comparisons between other entities that are within that government agency, and we can analyze between those two. And a good example would be the MDMA section of this. And in conclusion, for the city of LaSalle, Cypress, and for Laguna Beach, I did notice some similarities and some differences, but most importantly, it doesn't matter how big or small the city is. Their CAFRs were very detailed, they were very distinct, and it was easy for anyone to read and understand. Thank you.